The new 911 Turbo S, T hybrid, 701 bhp, 800 Newton meters of torque, launch control. Oh, that's 0 to 100 in 2.5 seconds. Welcome to Evo India and welcome to our first drive of the new 992.2 generation Porsche 911 Turbo S. I'm gonna have a blast today. Subscribe, like, share, and enjoy this video. Oh. Okay, let's make sense of the 911 Turbo S. One thing is there, the acceleration, it is brutal. I'm firing out of these corners and the response, it's like an electric car. Now, we've seen this kind of straight line turn of pace from very fast electric cars. But here, you have all the joys of a combustion engine, the living, breathing heart and soul of a car. You can feel it, you can hear it, and that because all of your senses are just so elevated, it just enhances the entire driving experience. In a way, it makes it seem faster. An electric car with all that artificial noises, okay, I don't like it so much, but here, these are the noises that you've grown up associating with a fast car. And then when you stretch the legs of the car, it just makes it feel faster, more emotional, and more engaging. The thing is, you need to get out of the track so that you can just spend some time to analyze everything and really process your thoughts. The figures have already set the Porsche world on fire. 0 to 100 in a claimed 2.5 seconds. That is 2/10 quicker than before. To give you a frame of reference of how much quicker that is in the real world, in a drag race of the old Turbo S with the new Turbo S, in 2.5 seconds, the new Turbo S pulls a gap of 2 car lengths, 2 entire car lengths over the earlier Turbo S. The other headline figures, 0 to 200 in 8.5 seconds, and top speed 320 kilometers per hour. Now, I know I'm sounding like an old grumbling uncle, but honestly, 320 kilometers per hour, where are you going to drive at those kind of speeds? But this is not Porsche's everyday sports car. This is Porsche's everyday supercar. And in the supercar world, that arms race, that race for even more intense numbers and figures continues unabated. Power 701 bhp. That makes it the most powerful 911 Turbo up until now. That's 60 bhp more than the outgoing Turbo S, and it's not down to just putting on bigger turbos. In fact, the engine is all new. Only the injectors are carried over. So that old 3.7 liter twin turbo flat 6 from the Turbo S, the 992.1, that goes out, and in its place comes the 3.6 liter engine from the GTS. This engine also has that asymmetric valve timing, and that gives it that serrated, slightly harder edged sound compared to the old Turbo S. If the one thing that was not so great on the old Turbo S, it was the sound, that has been enhanced. Unlike the GTS, this engine doesn't have Lambda 1 emissions throughout. In fact, when you're pushing it harder, the mixture gets richer, and that's to cool things down. The compression ratio, it goes down compared to the GTS, and of course, it gets 2 of those E-turbos. Not 1, but 2 turbos. This is the heart of the system. This is the E-turbo. Now, the red gases is the hot gases from the exhaust that is going into the turbine, spinning up the turbine, and then it gets released into the catalytic converter. So it goes into the 2 converters with the gasoline particle filter. This is on this side. On the other side, fresh air comes in, the compressor compresses the air and sends the compressed air into the intercooler and then into the engine. In between that, you have the E-motor. This is on the turbine wheel, and that E-motor is connected to the 1.9 kilowatt hour high voltage battery. The battery, this spins up the E-turbo. In comparison with the GTS's turbo, this has a maximum speed of 145,000 RPM. The GTS is 120,000 RPM, so it spins up faster. This is also smaller, both the turbine as well as the compressor. This is smaller than the GTS in terms of size. Another thing that this does is this E-motor. Now you will notice there is no exhaust wastegate or blow-off valve. And the reason for that is that if the turbine is going to be spinning up faster than actually required, there's no need to release the extra pressure, because extra pressure doesn't get built up. The E-motor, this brakes and retards the turbine wheel, and that retardation actually generates electricity, which goes either to the battery or to the E-motor, to the other E-motor in the PDK, which I'll show you shortly. So that's why this does not need that blow-off valves. How much energy is recovered? 14 kilowatts from each of those E-turbos. 2 E-turbos, that means a total of 28 kilowatts that's fed back into the system. Now the E-motors in the turbo are not the only electric motors. This is the other electric motor. This is mounted in the PDK. So when the PDK for the 992 generation was actually designed, there was space out here for the E-motor. The E-motor is 50 millimeters in length, 286 millimeters in diameter. Now at idle, this has a torque of 188 Newton meters, and that means you get that instant responses similar to an electric car. So again, you're not waiting for the engine to wake up, the turbos to spool up, because you have 188 Newton meters already here in the system thanks to this electric motor. This electric motor also recuperates, and it can send 60 kilowatts of power back into the system. Like the GTS, there are no bells, there's no conventional starter or alternator on this, because this is the T-hybrid engine. Like the GTS, there's no conventional chug 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 of the starter. This has that instant catch, and that's obviously because of the electrification in the powertrain. Also, the electrification in the powertrain puts in an additional 81 bhp into the entire system when you're full sending it. Electricity is making the combustion engines we know and love that much better. This gives the Turbo S unprecedented throttle response. You don't drive it anymore like a 911 Turbo. You don't have to anticipate, you don't have to wait for the turbo lag. Here, you drive it like a naturally aspirated engine. You rely on that instantaneous throttle response. You can drive it on the throttle, you can position it on the throttle. You don't have to anticipate turbo lag and hope that you've got it right. To be fair, that was one of the charms of the Turbo S. It really pushed you. It separated the good drivers from the really good drivers. Now, whether these improved throttle responses, this more docile character of the engine is a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. Some people like a car that really pushes them, pushes their abilities, focuses the mind. And to be honest, there is more power, but then the driving characteristic of the Turbo S now is not that much different from the rest of the 911 range. So whether good thing, bad thing, I don't know. But for mere mortals like us, this makes this so much more accessible. All that power can be harnessed. You're not driving wild-eyed and holding the steering wheel, getting white knuckles. This has got more power, but also more accessible power. We've driven the previous generation turbo, the 992.1, and there's not one instance, not a single instance where we felt that it was lacking in power. But here we do have more power, which means there have to be chassis upgrades to handle all that power. The biggest update is the electro-hydraulic PDCC system, EHPDCC. Now, what that does is there are these actuators, hydraulic actuators, connected to the anti-roll bars at all four corners, and that softens or stiffens it up depending on the driving situation. So here I'm braking hard into the corner. At the rear, the anti-roll bars are softer, and that means if there's like an impact, if there's a bump, it softens it and there's less impact on the car. Then there's this fast right-hander, and here the inside right the anti-roll bar becomes softer, and that lets the car turn into the corner better. And then when I get back onto the power, the rear softens, and what that does is it lets it deploy all the power. The four-wheel drive system is unchanged from the earlier turbo. It sends up to 500 Newton meters of torque to the water-cooled front differential. There are little detail changes to account for the different positioning of the masses, but otherwise it is unchanged. Turbos have always been characterized by the wide body. Now, in terms of the width, it's actually not got any wider than the 992.1, but it is wider than the regular Carrera models. 45 mm wider at the front, 20 millimeters wider at the rear. Now, at the rear tires have also gone 10 mm wider. So these are now 325 mm wide tires, and these are Pirelli P0R rubber. The styling has been tweaked. So you got revised lighting. These are matrix LED lights. You got the Turbo Night badging. Now this is characteristic to all turbo cars. Also slightly revised bumper styling. The characteristic two-plane rear wing remains, but now you get this full-width LED tail lights. The deployable front splitter remains, but there's now an active diffuser underneath this to better manage the airflow. Similar to the GTS, you get these active aero elements, and that means the new Turbo S kind of looks like a love child between the GTS and the earlier generation 992.1 Turbo S. Also, these elements, they shut when it rains, and that means there's less water going onto the brakes and improves braking efficiency. Carbon ceramic brakes are standard, PCCB. The front brakes, 420 millimeters, same size as before. The rear, they've gone up by 20 millimeters, from 390 to 410 millimeters. The compounds for the pads have changed, and also rear wheel steering is now standard. Weight is always the enemy, and hard as the engineers might try, because of all the hybrid components, weight has gone up. In this case, it's gone up by 85 kilos, and that's despite all the weight-saving measures. The titanium exhaust reduces weight by 6.7 kilos. The wiper arms are composite, and that reduces weight by 50%. On the coupe, rear seats are optional, but on the cabriolet, rear seats are standard. That explains why the 911 Turbo S does not have an electric-only range, nor is it a plug-in hybrid, because doing that would mean having an extra battery, which would mean that this would probably be the first 2-ton 911. And Porsche's head of the 911 model line, he was quoted as saying that, is this a 911 or a truck? It ain't a truck, buddy. This has become so much faster that around the Nürburgring Nordschleife, it is 14 seconds faster. 14 seconds faster. To just give you a frame of reference, from one generation to the next, the lap times go down by 4, maximum 5 seconds. With this Turbo S knocking off 14 seconds, that means this is like it has skipped an entire generation. That is how much faster it has become. That's a terrific improvement. Now, that's partly down to the T hybrid system. Then it is also down to this electro-hydraulic PDCC, which gives you that quick responses. And of course, there are these instantaneous responses. Now, I don't know if it's the instantaneous responses that have helped the Porsche factory drivers give them more confidence in the car, because to be honest, if there's one thing that Porsche's factory drivers haven't lacked, and that is confidence.
Hi.
Jorg, hi.
How's it going?
Super, now it'll be even better.
Okay. You like the car?
Oh, super.
Good.
Send it and put it as sideways as you can also.
Will do.
Oh,
You asked for it?
yeah. Oh.
The birds are crazy here.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Had some fun? Quite impressive for standard road car.
Unreal.
On standard tires.
Unreal.
It's so much fun.
And the way it rotates around corners.
Yeah, with weight shift and obviously tire pressures are very high at the moment.
Okay.
But really what I like the best is you don't have to drive it like a turbo anymore with the instant throttle response. You can just play with it. It's really cool.
Unbelievable. But for mere mortals like you and me, what you do get is that much more confidence to be able to push it harder, really drive it to the absolute limits of its performance. We are not waiting here for the turbo to spool up, hoping that we've got it right and praying that we've not got it wrong and the turbo will spool up and bite us in the ass. Here, there is so much of precision. You can drive it on the throttle and the response is like an electric car. It's instantaneous, it's immediate, and you get the noise, you get that feel, you get that feel of the engine, the revs through the steering wheel. It's not unrefined, it just adds to all the drama. Of course, for ultimate lap times, the lighter, the more hardcore GT3 RS, that will be faster. But if you have a more technical track or a track with longer straights, the Turbo S might match the GT3 RS's times. And I got to remind you, the GT3 RS is basically a race car with number plates attached to it. The Turbo S is an everyday sports car, everyday supercar. You can take it on track, destroy lap times, and then take it on the Autobahn and destroy Autobahns as well. Then you drop the top. If you bought the Turbo S Cabriolet, you knock it back to comfort mode, and then you crush the Autobahn. That duality of purpose, that's the one key characteristic of the Turbo. And then there is comfort, genuine comfort. PDCC, EHPDCC, I don't know how do you pronounce it, it's a strange acronym, but that electro-hydraulic PDCC, Porsche Dynamic Chassis Control, that enhances stability and also gives better ride comfort. So whether you're crushing the Autobahn at 300 kilometers per hour or crushing the back straight of the BIC, you pick your poison. This new chassis, that gives you better body control, better dynamics, and puts you more in control of all this performance. The 400 volt system, it also operates the nose lift. That raises the nose by 40 millimeters. That is an option you definitely have to tick if you're buying a Turbo S for use in India. Earlier, the nose used to lift in 5.3 seconds. Now it lifts in 3 seconds. So that has also become quicker. And it also looks more dynamic, the nose lifting, fat karke. In all the driving, I've actually forgotten to talk about the interiors. Now, similar to the 992.2 generation, all the updates, gone are the analog dials and in comes this digital cluster, which, to be fair, is better in terms of legibility, in terms of readability, but it doesn't have that same emotional character as those old analog dials. Worse, you get this generic start-stop button. That, I don't know why that's there. And also, this little gear lever, this is carried over, but again, I don't like this so much. But the rest of the cabin, the quality, the way it is put together, it's unimpeachable. You also get a lot of this Turbonite detailing everywhere. The crest is now in Turbonite. There are Turbonite splatterings all over the place. I can also tell you that the engine note is slightly enhanced by the rear speakers. So there's some sounds coming out through those rear speakers. It's a little bit more harder edged, more motorsporty, more emotional. It's not as hard edged as the GT3 RS, that's for sure. The GT3 RS, well, that's a race car with number plates on it. And you really have to be a bit of a sadist to drive that on the road. This, it will not murder your spine. It will not murder your eardrums. And then you can slap on a fresh set of rubber and destroy lap records at the BIC. It will also destroy your wallet. Not that Porsche customers seem to care, considering their appetite for sports cars and their disdain for electric cars. Now, this used to be 3.7 crores, the 992.1 Turbo S. The new one has gone up by 30,000 pounds. So with the current exchange rates, you're looking at prices going up by around 40 to 50 lakh rupees. So this Turbo S, when it comes to India later this year, this should be around 4.2, 4.3 crore rupees, which is actually now nudging into Ferrari territory. The Roma, when it was launched in India, was around 5 crore rupees. The 296 GTB was 5.6 crore rupees, though I believe now it has gone up by another crore because of the exchange rates going up. So this has become expensive. In fact, cars themselves have become super expensive, but cars have also become that much better. This is the most complete, the most capable, and the most accessibly fast 911 Turbo ever created.